Back, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and join experts on how to stay abreast with the latest updates in payments. I leave the stage to Ugne Buraciene, CEO of European Women Payments Network and Country Ambassador of payabl.
Thank you so much. I will just correct that. I'm actually Group CEO of Payable and Country Manager for European Women Payment Network, but it's a small detail anyway. Just very quickly about myself and the company. So we do payments. We do all sorts of payments for many industries. We do banking, acquiring, and we're sort of a modern fintech, paytech company. And I have a lot of colleagues also from the industry here who do similar or slightly different things, which I think that's why the panel will be very interesting today, because it's not completely only focused on the regular acquirers here. So please, guys, introduce yourself, what you do, what you represent, and then we take you to the questions.
Okay, so
please.
I think it's on.
It's on.
hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mina Louka. I represent a group of companies called B2 Broker. We have kind of an ecosystem where we do liquidity, CRM, PAM, MT4, MT5. We have our own EMIs. We have SISIC license for prime brokerage. We have over 9 licenses across the globe, 11 offices, Dubai, Mauritius, Cyprus, UK, and so on. We have our own developed technology for all sorts of businesses. So it's complementing any need for any investor, whether you're into crypto, into payments, into brokerage, and so on. I am particularly in charge of our offices in the UK. I'm a CEO of our electronic money institution in the UK. It's called Eqwire, soon to be launched in the next couple of months, and the expansion of our crypto business in the UK. I come from the core banking background, so hence would be my experience.
Cool, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm from Worldpay from FIS. We are the largest global acquirer, and we're processing over 42 billion transactions per year. And we do everything from pay-ins, payouts, and all sort of value-added services, and across the industry, retail. But I personally focus on trading and ways that we can improve our proposition in the space. So thank you very much for having me, and look forward to the discussion today.
Hi everybody, my name is Yehud. I'm from Nuvei, formerly SafeCharge. I'm there for the past decade. We at Nuvei actually facilitate payments for different kind of merchants from different verticals. This vertical is also very important for us, and we are working with the top tier clients on these specific verticals. We provide different alternative payment methods, over 40 different acquirers around the globe, including Asia, including LATAM, including UAE and other regions. I myself am in charge of Europe, Middle East and Africa, in charge of both sales and the relationship management, and working towards penetrating even more markets and more regions and more verticals. So thank you very much. Good to have you over here.
Hi everyone, my name's Rosie. I'm Product Director at IFX Payments. IFX started off as a brokerage business, but we've recently moved into the financial services space. We offer banking as a service through a virtual IBAN solution, essentially creating a sort of POTS solution in the way that Monzo and Revolut do for corporate businesses. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Hi everyone, my name's Chris. I am co-founder of BVNK. BVNK is a payments platform, and I guess at our core we build crypto-powered payments products, and we kind of sat right at the intersection between the crypto financial system and the fiat payment system. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Good, thank you so much for the introductions. So to open up the panel discussion today, I think it kind of makes sense to talk a little bit about the challenges that the merchants are currently having accepting payments globally. And I'm sure we all know that the clients that are here are actually really ones that need this information and kind of really usually have quite a lot of challenges in terms of accepting payments globally. So please, from your perspective, what do you think is currently the biggest pain points for the industry? And let's take it from there.
Yeah, so I think with cross-border payments, the challenges are challenges that we've heard about for a while. It's high costs, it's slow settlement times, it's transparency issues, and of course when you're sending payments across borders, it's security issues as well. So I think those issues have been really well addressed locally. I think with things, regulations like open banking, PSD2, we're kind of looking at data sharing and the ways that we can improve those services in country. Things like faster payments are helping with settlement times and reducing costs, SEPA instant as well. So I think those expectations from consumers are now kind of moving outside of those geographies. And those expectations are kind of coming to sending those payments abroad. So how can we make sure that those types of characteristics as a sender, I could then experience that when I get that money abroad as well. So lots of regulations happening. I think regulations add complexity to environments, but they also create space for innovation, create space for secure transfer of data. So I think those are kind of the main challenges that we see at the moment, and there's a few different ways to kind of tackle those.
Yeah, and I think definitely when I look at merchant, what they are looking with their main challenges. So obviously, their goal is to see that they have the most of the relevant solutions. So global reach is the key, and to have proper solutions wherever there is needed. Of course, approval ratios come along because working towards not cross-border and working directly on locally on different entities and different acquirers and different solutions. This is something really important. And above all, you know, we are speaking about frictionless payment, that there will not be any situation of that the flow will be direct in the frictionless regulation.
Yeah.
I myself very happy with the regulation. It's bring the relevant provide the relevant merchants, and there is room for everybody, and I think that the industry goes into the right direction in that regard.
Yeah, and I think just on that point, we've all been heading towards globalization. I think that's how we've seen it in our heads. But over the last couple of years, and I think that's been accentuated through COVID, through the ongoing war, we've very much seen a retraction and going into, you know, key regions. And I think that we've seen a lot of regions start to invest in their own technology to regain that control that they have previously lost through, you know, ongoing globalization. And, you know, I think that today there are over 60 regional payment networks which are all trying to interrelate and sort of connect. And that's just creating even more complexity, which I think that Rosie was talking about as well, which, you know, when you're trying to be a global player, becomes an absolute minefield to be able to go into new markets and understand what is required from you. So I think that that's where, you know, the payments comes in. You need to have that kind of global view, but at a local level as well, to understand really what is required from you.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I think that interoperability is a real challenge at the moment. So everyone was kind of, I mean, countries were kind of building those payment methods in silos. There wasn't any kind of global discussion about how we should send payments. So you get really great products in country, like in Brazil, they've got a great product called Pix, which is getting huge adoption. In India, they've got UPI. But with those different technologies, there wasn't kind of consensus on what does security look like, what does KYC look like. So you get these kind of differences, and that's where the challenge is now.
I think we need to split between two, actually, the fiat challenges and the crypto challenges, because they're a bit different. So the challenges for the payment, as my colleagues just said, they're all about the cross-borders, although I can see opportunities in the cross-borders and the open banking, because you have transparency in terms of the TPP and how we know other, the customer would know and confirm the identity of the beneficiary and make sure that everything is fine. But also that's one side for the payments as far as banking is concerned, but when it comes to crypto, the challenges are a bit different. Till now, although we had a few hiccups during the year from Terra Luna to FTX and so on, and everybody's familiar with this, but then we still call in every region or every country, as far as the regulator is concerned, they're only focusing in compliance and money laundering, whereas all the hiccups were related to technology. So someone find some backdoor to something which resulted into a mess up. However, this is still, the market is going strong. It's not the winter for crypto. The market is going toward the stable coins. It's not a safe haven as it was put, but still there are lots of evolvement in terms of the technology itself, which will evolve, and I'm sure we will talk about this in a few minutes. But again, I mean, splitting the challenges into two parts, they're a bit different, and there are talks about looking at the PSD3, trying to addressing all the gaps in PSD2 on how we do safeguarding, how we address the GDPR in a better way, etc.
I have to agree with all of you, and but actually the very interesting aspect, let's say for me, is what we talk when we talk about payments globally and the acceptance of payments globally. But I think also what is really key here, considering that there are so many complexities, is that for the merchants themselves, they have to decide which regions they do operate and how to choose those payment methods. Because with this huge selection of a wide array of payment options and everything, you have to really be precise and know, your markets, your clients, and that you know also what to request from your payment service provider, right? So that ultimately the benefit of having these options would not turn to be a negative at the end of the day. And I think this is kind of my takeaway for the clients in general, since it is you have to manage this, somehow. And in terms of crypto. You say that it's different in a way, but in terms of payment service for us, still the same challenges. I mean, because the money for the merchant, whether an Eqwire is providing crypto processing for a merchant, for us, it's still the same stat challenges. We have to settle the money, cross-border, not cross-border. So in terms of that, technology maybe is also another factor, and I think this is kind of where I want to sort of lean a little bit into, right? What is the sort of the new layer of technology between the merchant and the payment service provider? How does it evolve? Are we talking about payment orchestration platforms? Are we talking about some other things? How important is the new technology for payments, and what is out there at the moment, that we can discuss? For example, interest in payment orchestration platforms, or processors for crypto. So, what is your sort of take on it and interest?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at, if we add crypto to, to the kind of alternative payments methods, or what sort of a new technology coming on into the payment space, I think we're talking about global payments at a local level. Crypto solves quite a lot of these challenges in terms of being a global payment rail, a single source of kind of digital money, so to speak, where you can have, previously you've had, I guess, traditional kind of payments, which is cash and card. Alternative payments have come onto the scene, but those alternative payment methods don't really talk to each other. So a Venmo wallet doesn't talk to a PayPal wallet. What crypto's brought on, in terms of bringing new technology to the game, is you've got a single form of global payment method, whether the transactions being, confirmed by the blockchain, but those wallets all speak to each other. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter where you're processing. And yes, you have the settlement challenges on the other end, but I think by being able to accept a global form, a single form of digital money with wallets that all talk to each other is a great innovation within payments.
I think reliability of the partners you're working with is one of the things that you need to be mindful of. Risk management as internal fraud risk, external fraud risk, hacking, all these kind of technology aspects of risks that you're exposed to. When I go back to your point to layering, we go back to Bitcoin was the level 1, then Ethereum came to level 2, and then now we have Cardano, Solana, and so on. And then when you think about chain links, that would solve for you the DeFi, the use of DeFi. So you would open up to different kind of the outer space when you can execute the smart contract for insurance, for example. Someone who has a land field of I don't know, his crops, and the weather wasn't good. He insured his work, and then all of a sudden weather came, flooded everything. Instead of doing investigation, applying, and all these things, then your smart contract is into effect immediately. So this solves for the technology. It's not solving now, but that solves for one aspect of insurance, maybe lending, all sort of.
I mean, if you double click on the payments use case specifically around crypto, yes, it's a complicated space, but there are definitely tools coming to fore. We use them, at BVNK to do transaction monitoring. Anything you can do in, I guess, fiat payments processing you can do in crypto with probably more transparency. So the tools are coming.
True.
It's a complicated space to put it together because you've got different kind of your node and wallet infrastructure that you've got to manage. You've got a fragmented liquidity landscape. So if you pick the right partner who's able to do all of this for you at seamless, and it's just like integrating to another payment rail or another payment provider, they blend that all together. So to your point earlier, where you're picking your partner really well is is kind of first and foremost, and leveraging the technology around that.
Yeah, and I can't really speak to the crypto space, but I definitely know the sort of power of the API in terms of modernizing banking services and how that's kind of had a massive impact on the way that consumers and the way that corporates can access banking services. So the open banking has really given us the ability to fractionalize those services and bring in competition and bring in innovation and bring in better services for companies and individuals. So even not knowing a ton about that crypto space, I think more technology and more developments is always a good thing for consumers and for business. With the regulations.
Yeah, you spoke about something which is interesting because I'm getting it a lot from clients. It's about the flexibility. If there is a merchant now that wants to have, let's say, card scheme, you want to start with that, Visa, MasterCard, Binance, Amex, the regular traditional card scheme, that's fair, okay? But if he wants to have local payment, okay, local acquirers, then we can facilitate that. And if he wishes to have alternative payment methods, where pay with crypto is one, or other crypto solution is another, and open banking, or ACH or RTP in the US, or maybe even PayPal and the alternatives to that, or even if you go even further on, Apple Pay and Google Pay, which is behind the scheme, but obviously this is something. And you need to have, when you're choosing as a merchant, you need to have a flexible payment provider that can bring you different type of integration as an option that you will choose. But the key is that you will have the choice and you will have the ability to make influence on the UI and the UX, and that it will be fast integration that will not carry high development or resources as such. So that is something really important, and we see it all the time. We have different type of integration. I'm sure everybody else. That's good.
I think this is exactly the point that I want to sort of pick on a little bit more, right? Because the way that we kind of talk about all of these payments options and everything, we kind of don't really resolve the actual issue for the merchant, right? Because technologically, you can connect to multiple acquirers, to multiple platforms, to process and accept payments and to get the flexibility from the acquirer. But the integration layer usually is very complicated for the merchants. So do you see any trends in terms of making that easier for the merchants? And I kind of leaned a little bit, and for example, what is your opinion about payment orchestration platforms in terms of, working and simplifying also the APIs, for the merchants? Any opinion basically from the two key?
I mean, I think that we do both, right? I mean, I think what we do is we really try and have that direct relationship with the merchant to really understand their needs, because what we try and do is create a bespoke solution around them and not look at it as, I think you could very generically talk about payments being used across every single industry. And, sometimes when you get to the point where you put more people in the mix, you sometimes lose that understanding of what the merchant is really after and really looking for. So I think that's, and then you very much become price oriented. So that I think that would be one thing, which obviously is incredibly important, but there's so much more in terms of quality behind it that I think sometimes can be overlooked when you bring in more sort of, people in the mix there. On the other side, I think that it is one of those things which is giving the merchant more choice. And taking some of that relationship away, that you can have that sort of automatic switch through and looking at, always providing the best to your consumer. And you can do that within a flick of a switch. So I think that in that, it probably not the best answer, but both of them, I think that it's important to do both.
Yeah, some clients will choose, to work with their own platform that they develop for many years, okay? And some clients will choose to work with the third-party platforms, and some others will choose to work with your PSP payment page.
Correct.
Maybe specifically for alternative payment methods, because you can get in one basket, 50, 100 different alternative payment methods by jurisdiction, with a fallback, with different features like partial approval and things like that are relevant, or go with those solutions. It's about giving them the choice. There is a solution called Web SDK, okay, where you can actually provide them with the benefits of getting your payment page with the PCI and all those stuff that does require a lot of efforts and resources from the company itself. But at the same time, giving you the liberty to do whatever you want and to design according to your needs. So this is the flexibility which is needed.
I think it's about which stage are you at as a business and your merchants where they are, because for example some they choose to use their own platforms, but then when you do all the integrations for them and then give it to them at a less cost, that would be more commercially viable for them. You give them more value with less cost instead of replacing their resources, their headcount, etc., etc. So if you, for example, I don't want to sound pitching our business, but if I would say, if I'm integrating all the blockchains for you and give you one REST API, just straightforward, you accept the payment, and then you get your invoices, you get everything, and then when you want to use it, use crypto as a payment, be my guest. I will change it for you at your preferred coin, send it to you fiat, crypto to fiat to your bank account. That would be easier for you than getting your own developers, building your company, and all those things. So I think cost benefit from a merchant perspective, that's an important element to consider.
I agree, and I think I also agree with the fact that in general, of course, the merchant can choose whatever the option is most suited for them in terms of their business, how they operate, whether you mentioned around that you have your own platform or not. But I think it is important to note that that the integration layer does not take away relationships from the acquirers and from the payment service providers, right? So it's ultimately something that makes life easier for the merchants as long as the merchant knows how to utilize it and how to work with it appropriately. And in any case, it will not change the relationships with the acquirers because in most cases it would not be able to do anyway. But leaning also a little bit towards the local payment methods and alternative payment methods, because we kind of touched a little bit about that, and we talk about crypto payments, we talk about open banking. And we talked a lot about open banking in the last years, I feel. and what do you see as a new trend in the sort of local alternative payment method? What is emerging? What are the clients to look out for actually in this sort of near future? Because we can talk endlessly about crypto and everything else, but is sort of not really new anymore. Anything that you are thinking that is kind of the new thing would be really interesting to hear.
Yeah, so I'm afraid my thing's probably not brand new as well, but I think it's quite topical at the moment, which is the kind of subject around embedded finance. I think is really interesting at the moment, particularly with the news about kind of Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter and what he plans to do there. I think that kind of trend between the merge of big tech and banks and fintech going into the future, I think it's something we're really going to see, especially in the West now. In the East, they're doing it really well with apps like WeChat, but we haven't really seen that at the moment, but the moves are starting to be made. So Revolut has started to kind of integrate social media aspects as part of that app. It's become, not just a financial services product, it's also a lifestyle product. And in the same way, Elon Musk is talking about Twitter becoming a financial services product as well. So, I think that's really interesting, and that does kind of come down also to this kind of open banking concept allowing that. So, that's really going to put the kind of pressure on, I think, financial services in terms of understanding who their customer is and really being able to provide a good service there even more. There's even more competition in that market because social media definitely knows who their customer is. They definitely know what their audience looks like. They know what the behaviors are. They know the insights. So they're going to be able to provide payment methods in a really specific, targeted way, in the way that maybe e-commerce platforms don't have access to that information.
So it's kind of like leaning towards this super app also
exactly.
Part where we have examples where obviously it works really well, but I think it also really depends the order that you do it, right?
Yeah.
So for example, Revolut introducing, messaging when, WeChat was always a messaging service and then added, as a service. It's slightly
it's kind of happening both ways, right?
Yeah. And but embedded finance I really like because I think it also empowers also the clients, to have the financial also services, that they want, to provide to their clients, and I think it's a really great point. But sort of since we agree that there's not really anything much new, I suppose, happening, unless anyone wants to add.
There are some things which are new, and it's dependent where you're targeting.
Right.
Okay? So there are like many different regions around the globe, and every now and then there is something else which is the new
Like a local payment method.
local
you mean, yeah.
payment that is
Yeah,
now
yeah.
conquered in the world. Okay, so
But usually they're all also based, on the rudimental, services that we have. So whether it's banking, open banking,
correct.
like
But
cards.
even open banking, everybody thought it will change the whole thing, and it will be like in a few months, everything will change. There will be no cost. It will be cheaper. It will bypass the scheme and everything. It takes time. Okay, so some regions it's working perfect. SEPA and open banking. In the US, the equivalent it may be the RTPs and the ACH and does, but it takes time. So if you are targeting, for instance, in Malaysia, I don't think that open banking will help you. Okay,
No.
but you do need to have some good solutions over there, such as Tunes or Element Pay or Payment Asia or several others that can give you a combination.
Yeah.
And I think just on that point, I mean, like, obviously we have spoken about open banking, me and you, before, and a couple of months ago, and again, it was that whole thing of this is the new thing, and suddenly it didn't quite take off as we all thought it would within payments, which I think it doesn't mean that it won't. I think it has all the potential to do that. It's just, it will take time, but I think it takes education, which is the big failing point that we can see at the moment. And I think that especially in markets where it's been a regulatory push, you need the governments, you need the banks to be able to push that and educate their consumers about what those benefits are. And I'm not just talking about payments, I'm just talking about, data sharing in general. If the consumer understands what that benefit is to them, to be able to share that information, that their information is safe, and, everything that goes along with that, I think that you're going to see faster adoption. But until those players make those moves to be able to educate users in the right way, we won't see that, because at the moment, people don't understand the benefit and they feel like there's a risk. Rather than a benefit to them. So I think that's the big issue.
But open banking, I think specifically, because you're absolutely right, and we spoke about it sort of on and off, that, and also there was always this question, whether open banking will challenge cards, and whether it's really, challenging cards, and for card acquirers, it's kind of always also, a tricky question, to answer. But I think also ultimately the issue for the consumer also lies that there is no consumer protection, right? Because with cards, let's say it's a very predominant, process. It's been, worked out, for many years. There's a chargeback dispute, process and whatever else, right? So for another payment method to reach a certain level, you have to go through many stages, not only even the adoption stage, but actually how it works and how it facilitates, everything from the user perspective and so on. So, but it will be very interesting to see, when this change will actually happen. And how the market and the regulators will kind of continue to make it better. But sort of because we're kind of running a little bit out of time as well, and I want to leave a little bit of time for questions and Q&A from the session. I want to also ask a question about crypto, because we have crypto people here as well, and I'm sure that a lot of people in the audience are still thinking about it. So what is your take on what the market is at the moment for crypto, and also for the crypto processing for payments? So do you see that sort of as well, a little bit like an open banking in a way that is sort of has some adoption issues or technological issues or bad karma issues, or I don't know what else? So what is your take on that? That would be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, so I think you definitely got to separate, crypto adoption trends and then crypto asset price volatility. So naturally, crypto asset price volatility is what you're seeing in the market. New things come, you get bull and bear cycles. We're obviously firmly in a bear market at the moment. There's a bunch of other kind of negative headlines coming out around, a few other things in the market. But crypto adoption more broadly, if you go look at new wallet addresses, how many people are using it, number of users globally, that's all, that's adopting, at an increasing pace. And if you look at some of the charts, basically plotting the growth rate of internet users to 1 billion, and you apply that to kind of crypto growth trends, we're probably going to hit 1 billion users by something like 2024. So that's serious end user adoption. If you go into the payments, use case, and I say this again, I guess if you think there's 4 killer apps for crypto in my mind, Bitcoin kind of birthed the blockchain. The second one was really stable coins, and then that enabled the payments use case. And then you've had DeFi and NFTs come to the fore. They're still in the early stages, but I think the payments use case is really coming to its own at the moment, and you're seeing that with big acquirers doing stablecoin settlements. You are seeing merchants adopt crypto payment gateways. So despite what's going on in the market in terms of crypto asset price volatility, the adoption's there, and the use case and the problems that it's solving within the payments space are being solved today.
And just on that point, I think that what we're seeing as well is that this is becoming, taking away everything that we've seen recently, taking away the bad press and everything. On the merchant side, it's being able to give the opportunity for merchants and businesses to be able to start to reap the benefits of the technology behind it, but not receive that exposure. So things like being able to settle in stablecoin. So that's absolutely great entrance into crypto and understand it and understand the benefits of that technology. But on the consumer side as well, you're looking at, there's been volatility, but you're looking at markets like, in Argentina, where they're now suffering from 100% inflation.
Yeah.
And people there are now, they get charged terrible amounts to put their money in dollars. So they're putting it in crypto, but they also need ways to be able to spend that crypto. So being able to now accept payments in crypto is becoming more and more important in these markets where over the next couple of years, I'm assuming that we're going to keep seeing these inflation levels grow. So it's going to become even more important for them to have these opportunities.
Yeah.
So kind of just to also to translate it, I suppose, from a merchant perspective, right, is that for a merchant, it's just an alternative payment method, right? And
It is.
If that enables them, to target and to also accept, payments from a certain segment of the clients, then why not do it, right? And I suppose the industry and the payment players, just need to make sure that that the merchant knows, how to handle it, and that that we provide also accurate and transparent information of how the solution works. But from my perspective, really, it's just an alternative option, right? To as you mentioned, to adopt the certain segment that you cannot otherwise have.
And just one other thing, I think that it really depends on the merchant's appetite to be able to how much they want to dabble in it. You can have that whole settlement by stablecoin. You can receive payments in crypto, but then they
do you want to handle it or not?
Exactly.
Basically, do you want to touch it or not?
And you can go all the way, and you can go part of the way. And I think that if you're working with a payments provider who can give you those options and know what your appetite is, that's where you're going to really be able to go forward sort of securely within your compliance, within your appetite levels, and you're going to be able to you're not going to get burnt essentially.
Cool.
First, I will start that crypto is here to stay. Okay, we know that. Okay, and
no one's disputing that.
It's here to stay. Yes, there is some. If we would have been 1 month ago or something like that, then we had many approaches by merchant. Yes, activate, pay with crypto, those USDC, other coins, saving the cost, cross-border bypassing, and things like that. Right now, there is nothing is being spoken right now because everybody are taking a look what will happen. But we know that it will happen. We know that there will be more things like that. And we believe that this will be part of the umbrella of packages of, let's say, alternative payment methods that is being provided. So this is how we are seeing it.
Yeah, and I have to conclude also that I still consider that it's a good payment option, as long as it is provided to the merchant, in the right way. Exactly, mitigating the risk, and then that the client is really aware, how the solution works. So ultimately for the merchants, out there, why not do it? Why not to spread their wings and accept it? So
I agree with you actually. Crypto is here to stay, but you need to manage it properly. You need to manage your risk management. You need to manage your liquidity, how you process the payments, how the merchant, what's the merchant appetite to risk, what type of coin or stable coin they need to keep the money or convert it to. However, also, if I go back to the open banking and PSD2, now there are talks about PSD3 where they including how can we manage crypto idea, question mark, do we have to safeguard crypto or not? How? If yes, how? So this is an open question in PSD3. Would it replace PSD2 or not? That's still an open question. But I'm sure crypto is here to stay, but how we address all sorts of risks, how we do in banking or in core banking, it is not only limited to money laundering. It's technology, it's risk management, it's fraud management, everything. So, if you do it properly, it's here to stay and build up on it.
Absolutely, I have to agree with that. Let's take the next question, or more sort of a session to really give practical tips and advice to the merchants operating, in the global, space. And since we all come from very, different backgrounds, any kind of, input or anything, that you want to advise or put out there, I think it would be really nice. And then we can sort of walk into a nice, short Q&A session if anyone has still questions from the audience.
I can kick off. I mean, I think at the core, payments more broadly is built on trust and credibility at the end of the day. So
absolutely.
Pick, the number one piece of advice for merchants is really pick your partners well, make sure they're regulated the right way, they're doing the right things, their tech holds up, do all the audits you need to do. And then, that's, first and foremost. And then the second piece is stay abreast of the payment trends. The panel discussion is, kind of trends in payments, because these things happen pretty quickly and then they happen slowly and then very fast. So we might be talking about open banking for a while. The trend is in play. It's just taking a little bit longer because of XYZ reason, but don't get caught napping effectively.
I agree.
I'm going to quickly go next before the good tips get taken. But mine is just, I think mine is mainly on sort of data, so understanding really who your client base is. As merchants, you've got a pretty good idea, I guess, maybe not a 360 view, but there are partnerships you can leverage out there that will give you a much more kind of holistic view of who your customer is, what the behaviors are, what the trends are. Use that data to pick the right partners in terms of financial services offerings. I think consumers are, the way that they engage with financial services is really going to change over the next 5 years. It's not going to be your banking partner. It's not going to be that kind of place that you go to, or even the kind of mini apps. You're going to be going to all sorts of places that we don't expect at the moment, like big brands. So really understanding who your customer is and how you can interact with them, I think is the way to win. So yeah, I think mine's on big data still.
Yeah, I think, generally you need to find a provider or a payment provider or whatever for this merchant that is reliable, that is someone that you can trust, that you are questioning his risks and assurances and other and the regulation that they have and the reporting system that they have and the mechanism and the service that they provide and the global reach that they are providing. So all those things are things that need to be questioned. And we know that we are in a very competitive arena, and we know that we need to get better in all those parameters, okay? The uptime must be very strong. You need to have an ability to scale up. You need to have a different solution in different regions. You need to have all those stuff. So check carefully. Don't go with too many, okay? Pick your 2, 3, 4 different providers. Always have a backup. And this is how you need to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think both Ran and Chris definitely pulled on the points that I thought were most key in terms of having a reliable partner. And there's just one other thing that I think that we're the payments people, right? We should be the ones who are guiding our partners and seeing that as a partnership to be able to explain what the next trends are. I don't expect, everyone here who is working within the trading industry or in the crypto industry to be able to have all of that information. If they're entering a new market, we're the ones who you have to come to, and we should be, giving you that information so that you can do that, and you can do that knowledgeably and making the right decisions based on us having done it previously. So I think that it's just working in partnership, challenging, I think absolutely, but having that open relationship with, 1 or 2 or 3 very trusted providers who, you can count on and are going to be in the industry long term. I think we definitely see fintechs coming and going, especially within the trading space, people flitting in and out, and consistency around this and ensuring that your consumers can always use your services is absolutely key. So I think that would be my tip.
Well, I can't agree more. You summarized everything, and I think you all repeated the same point, and this is the most important. Pick your vendor, pick your provider. As a company, you need to protect your client interest. You're protecting your own interest, and that is not just financially, from security, from their own funds, your funds. The best interest for your client will lead you to be a profitable business. So it's a win-win situation. Nobody wins by themselves, and I think that's only fair to do business in the right way.
Correct. And I will add to that and sort of also summarize is that my tip always, of course, it always includes about relationships and really choosing the partner the correct way, but also for the merchants not to leave the payments as an afterthought, because it is a very, very complex landscape. So the merchant really needs to take into consideration all of those factors: the relationship, the regulatory environment, and yes, by all means, utilize the payment providers that you have, the relationships that you have, to get the best, sort of outcome and the best information. But do not leave that as an afterthought. The settlements, the payments, the collection, in different regions. This is a very, very, very difficult, part, which at the end of the day will make it or break it the business, right?
A merchant, a merchant
exactly.
needs to be very thorough in their picking than picking their
Correct.
providers and the other way around.
Correct, the other way around. And my last sort of tip, also sort of with the same thing that, that not to leave it as an afterthought, is that to have someone that really takes care of the payments in the company, I think for me is one of the things that I see a lot in the companies. It's just that sort of the function never really grew into a real function, or sort of sits somewhere with the treasury, but it's not really, completely, payments department, or someone that actually really takes care of it, right? A lot of the times, maybe somewhere sitting, with a financial controller or whatever else. You really need also people from your side to really know what the company needs and what you need to do. So you can rely on somebody that, tells you something, but ultimately someone there in the company needs to know and say, yes, actually, Worldpay is right, or Nuvei is not right, or, whatever, it is.
Yeah.
Because you still have to judge, for yourself, and you have to judge, for your business. So I think that is kind of also very important.
And we are here, we're talking about financial services companies.
Correct.
That is movement of money. That is the service.
Correct.
That is the product. If you don't get that right, you haven't got much right, So I think,
Yeah,
it,
and
it is something, like you said, it can't be an afterthought.
Correct.
Because it will impact the quality of the service 100% if you don't do it properly.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think people also don't realize, or at least, businesses, I'm sure they do, but I mean, we are dealing with money, right? So ultimately, if you deal with money, you have to make sure that it's not an afterthought by all means. So we have around 5 minutes, which since we have such cool people on the stage, maybe there would be some questions from the stage that you would want us to cover, or anything that that we haven't covered yet in the panel. Come on, no brave souls here, no? Go.
So it's a really simple one. You got 6 very, very interesting people up on stage. Can you cover? No, I've got a very loud voice.
We can hear.
We can hear.
So as I was saying, you've got 6 very cool people on stage. Pretty much everybody agrees crypto's here to stay. The one thing coming from a retail forex broker side of life is the KYC of those payments. I would like to know what you guys think are the trends, as we're talking about trends in 23, for how we cover that as a business for moving forward, to be able to mitigate the risk that we are already taking. Yes, when we're using Visa, MasterCard, bank transfers, payments, whatever, we can mitigate a lot of that risk because we can prove where the money's coming from. With crypto, that's a lot harder. How do you guys see that?
But the travel rules now are coming, and you will have to declare who is your client, where is the money coming, and you will have. It's a transparent. Unlike everybody saying, actually every transaction has a trace, and you can trace the transaction. Where is the money coming from? Where is it going? Who is the beneficiary? This is a myth that crypto is not traceable, and.
I agree, and also I have to say that I think it's a little bit of a misconception that for some reason that, have you ever tried to make a crypto payment somewhere? Yeah. I mean, it's, first of all, you have to open, the wallet, you have to do the KYC, you provide almost the same KYC that you do for a bank, right? So for me, in essence, if you're really accepting, as a merchant also accepting that payment, and you're doing it again through partners that you chose, that are regulated, that they know what they're doing, right? So there really is very minimal risk. But if you talk about KYC in general, I think maybe someone from the audience will help me out on this, because I'm sure that we spoke about that on one of the open banking panels. There are payment methods that are coming into play where they also sort of join this. Of course, the source of fund is, okay, it's a little bit trickier, but in the KYC perspective, open banking is a good one because you can also incorporate that in the actual payment flow. And there are companies I know for a fact that they are doing it, and it's a sort of an added value product. So I think the combination and combining them two is definitely something that we will see going further. But I really want to accentuate it again. The same thing about crypto is that really the crypto payments in terms of the actual KYC and AML perspective at the moment is not really a concern, at least from the payment service provider.
All regulators are becoming very strict.
Yeah. I think you've got to double click though on the, you're saying accepting crypto payments. There's crypto native ways and tools that have come to forward, Chainalysis, Elliptic, that do know your transaction screening and rank wallets, i.e. sanctioned wallets or that sort of thing. And you can see through time where all those transactions come from. So if you've done your KYC AML checks on who's the sender, but you can also check where he got the crypto from, going further and further back, almost like a web. So there's crypto native tools that companies like BVNK use to do all that transaction monitoring and screening in a crypto native way, put it that way. And those tools are getting better and better by the day.
I think on top of this, there are companies now specialized in investigating, not just transaction monitoring and screening. There are other companies where they specialize in ensuring the transaction plus doing the investigation on your behalf. And this is a new trend that I've seen even in previous events. And you need to be mindful of all the regulators are becoming stricter and stricter everywhere. Even if you have a license or a registration at any point of time, at an easy way, the regulator is becoming even more rigorous, and they're asking you to provide more and more how you protect the client interest and your interest and everything. And if we take the UK as an example, the FCA, I can tell you that the file you provide to the FCA just to get a registration, they call it the 5th MLD registration, but as a proper license. That file is that much.
Yeah, but I think, again, just to sum up, it's all traceable. It's all sort of, maybe it's not well regulated, in a certain way. But I mean, again, if you choose the right partner, if you choose the right, company, to work with and right technology, crypto is definitely one of the, I would say, one of the safest payment options, really, that there is in terms of, this is just my opinion, really.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You need to, sorry to add, one thing you need to be mindful of when you look at your provider as a client or a merchant, you need to do your own due diligence. You need to look where they are registered, where they are licensed, how strict is the regulator where they're licensed, what they do, how they do things. It's not the easy one, it's the good one, the reliable partner.
Okay, and I think that's it. Unless there's someone wants to squeeze in a quick question, but if not, then we wrap it up. Thank you so much. You were great. Thank you.
Thank you.